welcome to our community. Susie Thomas with you this morning. Always a pleasure to welcome Amanda Ann Schutz from Compassion Delivered. Good morning.
Good morning.
So, someone might be new in town.
Sure.
And they've not heard of Compassion Delivered yet. So tell me a little bit what it is, what you do.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having us this morning. So Compassion Delivered started in January of 2017 because of a conversation my husband and I had regarding supporting another nonprofit in a different state. But basically what we do because of this nonprofit and supporting this other organization is that we provide healthy nutritional meals to people that are dealing with life-threatening or terminal illnesses here in our community. And we give those meals to these individuals or families for free. And so we've been doing this a little under 3 years. We are hitting the number really close to giving 4,000 meals for free in just our short amount of time. And so these are healthy, chef-prepared, delicious meals made by my husband and a group of volunteers on a weekly basis, and then delivered by an amazing group of volunteers on a Friday for these families who need them in some of the hardest times.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's talk about your husband, why these are so good and healthy and delicious.
Yes. Well, I might be a little biased because he's my husband. He's a chef. And
he's a really good cook.
He's a very good chef. He does not always cook at home, but that's okay.
That's right.
I give him grace. But he's amazing. He is the one who really has been the driver behind making sure that the nutrition needs are met and making sure that the meal looks appetizing, but also tastes good. And it's nutritional. So he's the one who has put the brain power behind it and makes the meals on a weekly basis.
Even local meal delivery ministries charge something.
Sure.
How do you do the free part?
Well, it's really important to us that it is free. And the reason we say that is because people who are in this stage that are dealing with end of life, typically illnesses or diseases or things that could potentially be terminal or life-threatening, they're already financially strapped. Typically, when somebody finds out they have a diagnosis, a lot of things happen all at once. One, they could lose their job. Their job could be put on hold. They may be the sole breadwinner for their family. There also might be some other additional expenses that come in, of course, regarding healthcare and if they have insurance or don't have insurance. So, the financial part of it stacks up fairly quickly against them. And the last thing we wanted to do was to provide a service that was going to be another financial stress or burden to them. Our goal is to give these meals to them so that they can focus on their health, their family, and have time, which is the most critical piece. And that's the thing that we can never get back is time. And so these meals are important because they're giving them time to rest and recover and be with the ones they love during this time. And so it is important that they're free. And so the way that we make sure that that happens is through donations, which is the most critical part of our organization. We are 100% volunteer based, so there is no income going to anybody currently. Everything is turning around and going back to the clients and the families and individuals that we serve. So donations, fundraising, which is a great part of what we do, and through grants, and then also potential people that maybe want to invest and because they believe in what we're doing.
Mm-hmm. How do you support yourselves?
My husband still works a full-time job.
Wow.
So
so this is all volunteer in addition to regular work.
Absolutely. So he works a full-time job, and then we heavily rely on volunteers to come in and work around him, with him. It's a lot of fun to work in the kitchens because he is, of course, a culinary trained chef. So you get to learn some fun techniques that you can do, in your own home, but that you're also helping families that just can't do things like that right now. And then I highly rely on people on Friday to deliver the meals. We did this all by ourselves in the first year.
Right.
So for 52 weeks, it was Daniel and Amanda making and delivering meals. And so
Yes.
I will tell you on the 53rd week, I remember just kind of having a sigh of relief. Like it was like letting your child go off to college, and I didn't know what to do with myself on that Friday. But I still do faithfully deliver meals when I'm able to, outside of running the day-to-day operations of the organization.
There's more than just delivering the meal, isn't there? There's really time spent with the families. And talk a little bit about what goes into that.
Sure. So we say that the food that we provide is the vehicle that gets us in the door to have a seat at the table. And that is because this is more than just the nutrition side of it to us. This is about showing compassion and kindness. A lot of times when people are going through this, they become isolated, depressed, they become sad because of what this actually means. They typically just get a time frame of when their life is going to come to an end. And so you want to know that in that moment you're not alone. And so for us, we want them to know that no matter what's going on, we're going to walk with them from the moment we step foot in their house until the moment that either they become better or to the moment that they have passed on. And so they start out as individuals on a piece of paper, on an application, but in the end, they become family and friends to us. And that is something that I can't even begin to describe what it really truly means. It's personal. It's as a human being, how can you not relate? Because it could be my mom, it could be my dad or my grandparents or my own children or myself. And so I always think, however I am with that person, that's what I would want in return, if I was in that situation. And so we do let them know, we celebrate the good times. We kind of just get through when it's a little difficult, and then we are there in the very difficult times.
It's almost like working for hospice. How do you handle it? You're having to say goodbye to so many people.
We are. When I first started this, I actually just had this conversation this morning with a dear friend of mine, and I said, I don't think in the beginning we thought about that as much because it wasn't what was in the first, that's not what you really thought about when you started it.
Right.
You thought about the meals and support and encouragement and fun and all the kind of things you get to do when you start a new nonprofit or starting something with kindness. But what has happened over the years is that it's a cherished moment. It's a very humbling experience to walk with a family when they lose a loved one, because you kind of come in contact with mortality. I mean, you're face to face with it. And so for ourselves, we put in place life coaches and therapists and, just kind of counseling, because this is heavy. It is heavy to deal with grief. We are walking through grief, but we don't take that lightly. And I always say that we press in because most people would press or would walk away. They normally wouldn't press in during the hard times. That's usually when you see somebody who is in the end stage. A lot of people disappear because they can't handle it. And that's not a bad thing because it's hard. And so that's kind of where we come in and say, it's okay. When you don't know what to say, you don't have to say anything. But just being there is just as great as if you knew what the right words to say. So
yes.
Yeah.
You speak through the food.
You do. You absolutely do.
How long does the service last if a person does come to the end of their life? I'm thinking those survivors probably could use that one more meal.
Absolutely.
During that time. How long do you deliver?
So we typically stay with the family 13 months after the person has passed away.
Wow.
But that doesn't necessarily that we provide meals that 13 months. Sometimes the meals last maybe a month after the person has passed away, but we stay engaged with the family to kind of we'll send maybe a encouraging card or phone call or text message. Maybe we'll grab a cup of coffee or go to lunch. Just letting them know that we're still there. And a lot of times we're the last reminder of their loved ones.
Yes.
Because we were with them so much. And so they still sometimes need to be around us. And then there's the opposite side. Sometimes they don't want to see us at all. And I understand that we don't take offense to that. And actually through the majority of the individuals, families that we've lost, their loved ones have come to volunteer, to deliver meals, to kind of be an encouraging word to us. And I would never expected that, but it's the most beautiful paying it forward tribute that they could ever do for their loved one.
I'm so glad to hear you say that because you become so close to them, so much a part of that. So how amazing to continue to offer support
It is.
past the point of death.
Absolutely. And those people and these individuals actually become encouraging to the ones that are going through it now. And they may not realize that, but, they've been on the one side of it and now they're on the other, and they can help walk other families through it. And that's how our men's support group actually came to be, because a prior board member, his mom, was one of our very first recipients of our organization's meal program. And when she passed away in February, he started noticing that his father-in-law was becoming isolated and noticing that men really kind of go inward, especially if they've been a caretaker for a long time. And so he just approached us and said, would it be okay if we formed a men's support group? And it's not something where they come and have to divulge what's going on, but they meet for breakfast once a month, sit around and just talk about what's going on in life, what's happening happening in the week. And then when there are the anniversaries of death or birthdays or, wedding anniversaries, they have a group of men that can come alongside them and walk it with them. So that's what's formed out of what we've done in just a short amount of time.
Must you have been a client of Compassion Delivered to participate in this?
It started that way, and majority of the people that are in it are, but we are opening it up to people that are any walk of this journey. It could have just happened recently. It could be 10 years or 20 years that you've had loss.
Wow.
We welcome anybody. It could be a husband, a father, a son, a brother, an uncle, whoever it might be, or a friend, who is a guy. They meet on the second Tuesday of every month at Samantha's over on Portage at 8 a.m. and it lasts about an hour. And the object of sometimes a little longer because they had to eat breakfast too. I just thought of that.
Right.
But sometimes too, what they talk about is opportunities to volunteer.
Nice.
They really want to get to a point that as a group that they can go and do things together as the men of compassion is really what it comes to be.
Talk to me about what is in the food. These meals themselves are amazing.
They are delicious.
How good it is.
I have tried them all, and I will say most of them get by me because I allow them. Some of them I've said no to, but so we get most of our produce from Pegasus Farms in Hartville, and they've been a blessing to us because food is not cheap. That is, it is expensive to eat healthy, and so we really make sure that we have good quality produce and good quality meats, and then we make everything from comfort food to a healthier dish. And when I say comfort food, it's still healthy. I think a lot of times we think like, oh, biscuits and gravy.
Potatoes,
and
yes.
It's not that, but maybe there's a healthy kind of meatloaf recipe that he uses, or maybe instead of a white potato, it's a sweet potato. And so it's a balance, and so maybe instead of broccoli, it's asparagus or whatever. Just opening the palates and realizing that all of these things that God has given us here in our earth that we can grow in the ground are meant for us to eat. And so that's just kind of what we try to turn around and give back to those who need it.
So many times when a person has a diagnosis, they also have a very strict diet. Are you able to keep track of all of that, even with all these meals?
We do. And so on the application that an individual fills out originally, they have to disclose that information because by no means do you want to give somebody something that they can't have. That's very detrimental. And so we're very aware, and then we review that every 3 to 4 months so that if something in their diagnosis has changed or if something has changed with their doctor and they say you no longer can have whatever it might be, maybe it's carrots because of the medication they're on, then we want to be very aware of that. We wouldn't give somebody something they can't have. Unfortunately, though, if it comes to diabetics or people that have gluten restrictions or any kind of allergies, we cannot do those type of meals right now due to the kitchen space as well. But eventually we see that as something that we'll add on as we grow.
When you talk about volunteers, what all is involved, and is there any kind of training? Because this is a tough assignment.
It is. So kitchen volunteers that come into our kitchen, there isn't any training.
That'd be fun.
It's a fun thing. You just have to have the willingness to learn and know how to be in a kitchen. So he'll train and teach you the rest of it, and it's very fun and very hands-on, and it's a lot of fun.
If you love to cook, what a perfect way to volunteer.
And you don't have to even know how to cook. You can just come in and help us put labels on the containers or whatever it might be. So that part's really fun. But when it comes to delivering meals, yes, there is a training because we are looking for very specific individuals who don't mind stepping into some of the hard stuff. And it's not for everybody, and that's okay. And I recognize that. I appreciate it. There's a lot of other ways that you can volunteer if going into somebody's home is not something you want to do. But we go through a training, and that training then opens up to going into, we do require a background check on all of our volunteers, driving as well. And then we begin assigning them routes, for our Friday deliveries.
If somebody wants to volunteer, how do they do this?
So they can either go online, which our website is compassiondelivered.org, or they can give us a call, which is 330-575-0996. And they can just let us know that they're interested, and we'll get them set up with signing up to be able to go through orientation and then become a volunteer.
Awesome. We're visiting with Amanda Anschutz from Compassion Delivered. We're going to be back after these words. You're listening to Our Community.